Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Focus in 3D Mind, Body, and Spirit. In the last episode, I shared what the past 6 months taught me about restarting my podcast without shame. I talked a lot about identity expansion, and I talked about how that all relates to sustainable focus. So today I thought I would bring you behind the scenes. Those of you that might be watching on YouTube see that I'm in my workout clothes, and that's a direct example of how I integrate my life habits with my productivity habits. So today was my day to go on a long walk, but I wanted to get this recording done because that's on my calendar for the day. So I just dove in. As soon as I came back from my long walk and did my stretching and cool down, I decided to open up my notes and get started. So this is a direct example of the 3D process that I want to share with you today and open that up to you and describe what my 3D process is, what it means, and what it looks like in real life. So when I say focus in 3D, mind, body, and spirit, what does that actually look like on a daily basis? And why is that important anyway for mental focus and for helping ADHD? Well, in my learning about ADHD as a clinician treating and diagnosing ADHD for the last 22 years, and as being a mom of two ADHD kids and raising them, they display different ADHD characteristics from each other because one is a boy and one is a girl, but their personalities are different too. So I've parented two teens of ADHD. I've treated and diagnosed ADHD in my ADHD clinic in practice, but I've also lived with ADHD myself. I was the type of kid that could not get through a full novel in high school. I had to read Cliff's Notes. I had to create mechanisms that would help me get through school well. And luckily, I was intelligent enough to compensate, but certainly didn't reach my life's fullest professional goals. I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be an MD. I had hoped to also maybe be a PhD one day, but I ended up in PA school and I'm very happy with my career choice. But I only say that to show that ADHD has really affected my life in every way. It definitely affected my ability to feel effective as a parent. I doubted myself all the time as a mom. My kids were chronically late to school. I was chronically late to work. Because of my ADHD, I couldn't get myself past my executive dysfunction patterns for the longest time. And it wasn't until I started receiving coaching myself that I was able to transform and make a lot of breakthroughs and live much happier and a much calmer, peaceful, and centered life and not always feel rushed and overwhelmed and anxious about everything that I had to do and managing all the distractions and all of the negative things that that looks like and feels like. So, when I decided to get my coaching certification and I was exploring my coaching approach, it was really important to me to develop a coaching method that was integrative. And so when I say focus in 3D, mind, body, and spirit, I truly mean that I help clients to develop their focus in an integrative approach, nurturing their mind, nurturing their body, and nurturing their spirit. And I'll explain how all of this is related to ADHD and focus in this episode. So, I want you to know that most high achieving professionals overdevelop one dimension, one of the three dimensions. And the one they most often overdevelop is the mind, right? Because professionals tend to be intellectuals. We like to overthink, we like to overanalyze, we like to pursue perfection. We want everything to be efficient. We want everything to be on time. We want everything to be the best version of what it can possibly be when it comes to not only our output, but the output of everyone around us. So we tend to consume a lot. We overconsume. In some cases, we read books about whatever topic it is that we want to excel in. We build plans. We know how to make goals for ourselves and define those goals. And we want to try to optimize productivity systems. But the problem with that when you have ADHD is that if you under support your body or your nervous system or your energy regulation, or if you neglect your spiritual practice, which is directly tied to your identity, your deeper purpose, your alignment, and your self trust, if any of those pillars is misaligned or neglected, then your focus becomes extremely fragile and you can force your productivity and your focus for a while, but quickly you're going to find that you will fall into a cycle of procrastination, you freeze, you burn out. You might even lead to yourself to having a nervous breakdown or what I like to call mini breakdowns where we just can't regulate anymore and we go into these crying fits or worse. So we want to try to prevent that because having a good foundation for your mental health is 100% necessary for having sharper mental focus and being able to concentrate, being able to plan, and being able to have healthy executive functioning habits. So, this is what it looks like for me on a daily basis. Pillar one, or first dimension, is the mind for me. The mind has to do with my cognition, my clarity. Am I able to think clearly? And what do I do to support my mind? Well, first thing in the morning, I do not check email. I do not check my bank accounts. I do not check social media. I do not check my text messages. I start my day with an intentional meditative practice. When I say meditative, it looks different on different days, but the time that I spend doing it is to nourish my mind. So some days it looks like opening up my meditation app. I personally love Insight Timer. That's my favorite meditation app because it has such a huge variety of different types of meditations. And I will do a guided meditation from the meditation app. Sometimes I'll just turn on meditation music and do my own meditation, depending on how my mind feels when I wake up. Where is my mental energy? What is my capacity? But sometimes it's not a meditation that I want to do. Sometimes it's a journaling exercise that I will do for 5 or 10 minutes. And I try not to spend too much time on this, but admittedly, on weekends, I can find myself indulging in my morning mind practice. It really helps me to start my day with mindfulness and to set good intentions. It helps me to define for myself what success is going to look like for that day. And it helps me to also define and come to terms with what distractions might come up that day that I know I'm going to have. And when I am conscious of what those distractions might be, somehow they feel easier to work through than when they hit me out of the blue. And then I feel like I've been thrown off track versus if I know that it's okay to have certain distractions during the day, I just cope with it better. I'm able to deal with it, but come back to staying on track and working on my goal and figuring out what is it that I need to do today to move the needle toward my goal. So, in just this simple mindful practice, my distractions in life are these unexpected things that come up in life they don't hijack me anymore the way they used to. I used to feel like if my distraction was pulled in a different direction that day than I wanted it to be, I just could not find the energy to get back into doing what I needed to do, even if I had the time. So that mind dimension is really important. It's about intentional thinking. It's about creating a deep level of clarity for yourself for the day. And in doing that, it supports improved executive function. I am on time now more than ever than I have been in the past. Being late to things chronically was my biggest executive dysfunction by far. It was embarrassing. But having this little mindful exercise, believe it or not, even though it might seem a little bit unrelated to being on time, just knowing what I had to do and being mindful about it and being intentional about it helped me to turn that around. It's a thing. The second pillar of the 3D focus method is your body. And when I mention your body, what I'm talking about is the physical part of your body. What are the physical things that you do to support the physical aspect of your being? Because your brain is an anatomical structure. And if that anatomical structure is not as healthy as it can possibly be, then it's functioning, the part of the brain that we can't see, which is our concentration, our mood, our thoughts. Those are more the abstract side of the brain. But if the physical part of the brain is not healthy and working well, the abstract part of the brain is not going to function well. So the body is extremely important. So what are the things that we talk about when we talk about body? We talk about sufficient sleep. That is key, and that's the foundation, because without sufficient sleep, your nervous system will not have the physical energy to support the mental energy that it needs for focus and concentration. Sleep is such a magical thing. It's not magic, but when you think about the miracles, the neurochemical miracles and the physiology that goes on when you're sleeping in different levels of sleep, different stages of sleep, I should say, with different brain waves and all of the things that happen in sleep, it's truly remarkable. Your brain actually has a way to reset itself and to cleanse itself during sleep. And I can dive into more of the physiology of sleep and focus in other episodes, but take my word for it or do your own research for now that without sufficient sleep, you absolutely can't have strong mental focus the next day, at least not sustained. You might have been able to do that in your 20s, but you couldn't do it for more than one night at a time. You definitely couldn't do it for a week at a time and still be successful. And when you do and you are successful, you will burn out quickly. And that will lead to not only physical breakdown, but emotional breakdown in the long run. Another piece of taking care of your body and the physical side of your brain is exercise. As you can see, I'm a living example of that. I try to integrate exercise into my week as much as possible. Now, it's not always perfect. Today, I did a 1 hour walk this afternoon once I felt like I was up to it. And I know that tomorrow, that 1 hour walk is going to still be beneficial to my brain function because having that long walk is going to support my healthier and better sleep, which is going to support my mental focus the next day. So it doesn't matter what physical exercise you do, but movement is a huge part of your brain health. In addition to movement, we have to talk about nutrition, right? I am a firm believer in eating whole, natural, healthy foods from the earth. So, having a whole foods diet is key to having stronger mental health. And it doesn't have to be by Whole Foods. I'm not referring to the brand Whole Foods shopping there. Yes, you can, but you can shop anywhere. You can shop at Walmart or Target or Aldi or Trader Joe's and have an affordable, healthy eating plan. I do a lot of my shopping at Aldi and Trader Joe's, occasionally Walmart, depending on where I am geographically, but there's not one near me. But you can find good, healthy foods there. The general rule of thumb that I tell my patients in my clinic, but also my clients as I'm coaching, is that if it comes in a God-made package, it's probably good for you. If it comes in a plastic package, stay away from it. And of course, there's exceptions to that, right? You can have healthy nuts, I guess, that come in plastic bags. But what I'm referring to is that it's much healthier to eat a banana, grape, apple, or orange than it is to have a Dorito or a Cheeto or Takis or, I don't know, cookies and crackers that are made of chemicals and preservatives. So, in general, eat natural whole foods that come from the earth. Now, you don't have to be perfectionistic about organic or not. It's just eating healthy is better than eating processed. So, yes, is it optimal if they can be organic? But organic is not always feasible. It's A, it's not always available, and B, it's not always affordable. It's crazy how expensive food has gotten. But you get my point. So, as much as possible, choose whole, healthy foods. Hydration is another huge piece of our brain function. So it's sleep, it's nutrition, it's movement, but it's also hydration. I forget the actual percentage number, but like the vast majority of your brain is made of water, and your brain needs sufficient water to function. Water is what carries all of the electrolytes that your brain needs. Your brain is an electrical system, and the water is what fuels that electrical system. The water carries in the sodium, the potassium, the magnesium, the calcium, all those yummy electrolytes, the glucose, right? If you don't have healthy blood flow, which your blood volume is supported by your hydration, then you will not have the proper hydration to support your anatomic brain function. And dehydration is a huge piece, a huge important factor in one of the things you can do for your body that supports your brain. I personally carry a huge hydro flask everywhere I go. I drink at least 3 of these a day with water. And of the 3 times that I fill that, one, I do put in an electrolyte package to support because I drink so much water. So you don't want to drink so much water that you flush out all your body's electrolytes. You do need to replenish electrolytes too. And I exercise and I'm active and I live in a hot, humid climate. So electrolytes for me are crucial. Um, any questions about the body part? I don't think so. I think I've made it pretty clear how important taking care of our body is for supporting better mental focus. The third pillar of focus in 3D, or the third dimension, is a spiritual practice. Now, when I say spiritual practice, I'm not referring to a religious practice per se, although my personal spiritual practice is heavily rooted in my religious beliefs. That being said, my coaching does not push any specific religion. I coach clients from all different backgrounds. I have coached clients that have come from the Buddhist faith, from the Muslim faith, from no specific religion, but they believe more in the universal energy. And one of the things that has amazed me in coaching people from different religious backgrounds or different faith backgrounds is how similar the basis of all of our teachings are. And that's not to diminish my belief by any means or anyone else's, but I just only saying that because I feel like we need a lot more spiritual awakening in our culture these days. Regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are, it is important to develop a spiritual practice. Why? Because in our spiritual practice is where we really get rooted in our identity, who we are now, and who do we want to be tomorrow or next month or a year from now or 5 years from now. And your identity helps you to put into place and sustain different habits. So when you see yourself as an identity that's not where you think you are now, but where you want to be, you're able to take on and transform and sustain habits for that identity of the person you want to become. It's like the simple example of running, right? I used to run a lot. I don't now because my back and whatever. I'm a lot older. But let's just say you want to be a runner. You want to develop the habit of running 3 times a week, and you want to run your first 5K or 10K or half marathon, but you've never run in your life, or you have, but you haven't been consistent. So it's important to see yourself and take on the identity of not just I am someone who runs, but I am a runner. Because when you shift your identity to I am a runner, then you are much more likely to tie up those running shoes 3 to 4 times a week and become the runner. And you can apply this concept to other things as well. But your identity, I believe, is strongly rooted in your spiritual practice. Your spiritual practice also fuels your purpose. What is your why for wanting to reach your goals? What is your why for wanting to be successful in school or in your career or in your business or in your relationships or with your health? What is your deeper why? And your spiritual practice will fuel that why. Your spiritual practice will tell you the answer to that the more you dive into it. So, as you build that new identity of what you want to achieve, and as you become more in tune with your why and your deeper purpose of how you fit into the world, what you bring to the community, what your gifts are, what your weaknesses are, you're really able to start developing stronger patterns that are in tune with reaching your goals, whatever that goal is. And once you start developing that pattern, you really start to build a level of self trust that most ADHDers never feel. They don't feel like they can trust themselves to follow through on a plan. They don't feel they can trust themselves to make that A or that B on that exam. They don't feel like they can trust themselves to remember all the steps they need to do to fill the project if they don't do the project in one day. They don't trust themselves to be accountable or to be consistent. And that eroding sense of self trust over time is very damaging to the person, to an individual. And so when you approach a spiritual practice, you will be surprised at how quickly you start to gain evidence for self trust. And notice that I'm saying self trust and not self reliance. They're two different things. I believe that we don't have to be self reliant, we have to live in community. And I succeed because of others around me who help me to succeed. And the same is true for every other being on this planet. But developing self trust specifically, that's unique. And I really truly believe that that is fueled by your spiritual practice. I can attest to it. I have lived it. I've read multiple examples of it, um, and I believe it's true. So when you are truly in touch with your spiritual practice, you will notice identity expansion. You will notice that you grow in a different way. You will notice feeling grounded and feeling calm. And that's going to change how you take action on your day. You're not going to rely on adrenaline. You're not going to rely on fear, but you are going to rely on that deeper sense of purpose, that deeper sense of trust, and that deeper sense of identity that maybe you forgot about, or maybe you haven't just been in touch with for a long time. So why does all of this matter? Well, again, the goal of the 3D method, as I said before, is not just productivity. It's not your typical productivity hacks. It's not living by a spreadsheet. It's not by tracking every activity you do every day. It's about developing a lifestyle of congruence. It's developing a lifestyle that helps to keep you calm throughout the day, keep you grounded throughout the day, and help you truly transform into having productive habits that support the way you want to live and the way you want to show up. Because when you're not living in congruence, you are going to be overworked. You're going to be in a lot of self doubt or experience a lot of self doubt and maybe self-hatred even, or you oscillate between being in overdrive all the time and then being completely frozen and not being able to take action. And so many high achieving professionals these days, especially those that are navigating ADHD patterns, are stuck in that negative cycle. And it's not necessarily a discipline problem, it's just that they're not living yet in integration. And that is the goal of my coaching. And that is what makes my coaching different for ADHD professionals. I would like to take this opportunity before we close to announce that I am developing a coaching program, a cohort program, which means that there will be a specific start date. It will be 3 months long, and it will be based on a specific curriculum that I have built, where the group will start all together from zero, and we will work through the curriculum together over the course of 12 weeks. Inside the program, we won't just be talking about focus, but we'll be truly developing a lifestyle that will support the change that we want to make in our lives. My group opens on March 18th. So if you are curious about what that looks like and if that would be a good fit for you, you are welcome to send an inquiry email directly to me, Veronica at focusedmindcoach.com. I will also place the email in the show notes. So if you're driving now and can't write that down, don't worry. I will respond and we will set up a focus call just to talk about if the group feels aligned for you and if you think that this is something that you're ready for to help yourself shift into a calmer lifestyle where you can feel focused, where you can feel productive, and where you can develop a whole new way of living. So thank you for now. Thank you for being here. I will see you in another 2 weeks in the next episode of Focus in 3D, Mind, Body, and Spirit. Until then, stay aligned in all three dimensions.